What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast presented to you by the DWZ Football Network and BetUS.com. And tonight's show, we're going to talk about A.J. Brown. What are we doing with him in Dynasty? Some players that present their own Dynasty conundrums, and a trade target or two with a special guest. But this next guy's always special. He is my co-host. He is the man of the hour and the man with the power, Jerry Sinclair. What's up, buddy?
Nothing. You always make me feel special, man. That's why it's good. That's why I haven't bailed on you yet. You warm my heart every time.
Oh man, you were talking sweet to me. It must be because you haven't been on a podcast since last Tuesday. You had a full week off. It was nice. We crammed 4 podcasts into one super show on YouTube last Tuesday with all the boys from the DWZ network. It was a lot of fun. All those podcasts are out there, but we are not alone. It's not just me and Jerry. It's not a normal Tuesday. We have a very special guest with us tonight. Our guest tonight is an editor and a ranker for Fantasy Pros. He is the host of the Fitz on Fantasy podcast, a contributor at thefootballgirl.com, a Milwaukee native, a Packer backer, and I don't know how this will go with Jerry, but forever a Badger. Please welcome to the Dynasty Warzone for the first time, Mr. Pat Fitzmaurice, and you can find Pat on Twitter at FF_Fitz. Pat, man, welcome to the show.
Oh, Memphis, Jerry, really great to join you guys. I've been looking forward to this all day, to be honest with you. I just I'm looking forward to the off season just so I can get back into my dynasty teams. And we were talking backstage before the show, just the off season is often more fun than in season in dynasty. And I'm kind of looking forward to that when I can reassess things, take a breath. The in season has been a grind to just reassess my dynasty rosters. A couple of them really need some major reassessments and start shaking things up with some trades.
Yeah, we are starting to mix in more player conversation, and I'm going to hit Jerry, and maybe we'll get a guest next week to start talking some rookies. Maybe next week we'll all bring one rookie, or soon-to-be rookie, I should say, in the 2022 class, just to start wetting our beak a little bit, just a taste of some 2022 rookie action. But what's going on with Fantasy Pros, your podcasting, everything that you have going on?
Yeah, it's been a busy first season with Fantasy Pros. They brought me in kind of right at the beginning of the football season. So it's been not a lot of time to catch my breath, helping to crank out the weekly primer launched by, our late colleague, Mike Tagliere. And Tags used to write 30,000 words a week. I'm not doing quite that many, but it is kind of a big undertaking and still trying to keep up the podcast every week and just stay on top of a bunch of other little things writing a player props article every week, trying to do a little bit of staff management too. It's been pretty all consuming, but labor of love. It's been a good time.
And I believe earlier this evening, before we hit the go live button on this podcast, you put out your rankings for this upcoming weekend?
Yes, sir. I think they were actually done last night. I normally put the finishing touches on them right around the time the Monday night game ends.
All right. Well, we won't put you on the spot because I don't want to give away Pat's work. I mean, you can get it. It's at Fantasy Pros. You can follow him again at FF_Fitz on Twitter. You can find links to a lot of the good stuff that he does. And if you're not following him, shame on you. You are missing not one of the good ones, one of the great ones. Real quick, we're going to get into some A.J. Brown discussion. Want to make sure to point out the YouTube. We did do a People's Propcast, and I'm going to go slight humble brag, but went 6-1 on my bets and props last week. The Tyler Higbee, man, over 37.5 yards in the game when they were trailing. I think he had 1 catch for 3. Tyler, bud, you're killing me over here. Outside of that, it was a good week for your boy, and I only put those out on Saturday, and some of those numbers moved by the time you got the podcast on Sunday. I think between that and the waiver wire sniping article our boy Kyle August from the Fantasy Football Smackdown does, I think those are the 2 biggest reasons. But rookie content, we're already talking rookies, and you'll see a lot of rookie content over at Dynasty Warzone on YouTube. please check it out. Interact with us over there. Leave us a thumbs up on a video or, 10 or 12, what have you. And we'll jump right into some more stuff with the rookie content on YouTube. So, all right, here we go. I'm looking at my show sheet, and for whatever reason, everything's highlighted. I don't know why that is. I think because I did it on my phone, to be honest. But AJ Brown, I will just start in like a vacuum. Pat, I'll start with you. How are you feeling about AJ Brown right now, both from what you expected coming into the season and from a dynasty aspect?
Weirdly, the major concern I had about him coming into the season was, what Julio Jones might do to his target count this year. And, that turned out to be a big non-issue with Julio Jones unable to stay healthy. But unfortunately, AJB hasn't really been able to stay healthy either. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't worry that much when I heard that he had cleanup surgery on both knees coming into 2021. And, that's not what's keeping him out now. But maybe there's going to be some concern among the AJ Brown stakeholders that he is having health issues this early in his career. I don't know. I mean, still a terrific player. We've seen what we saw from him last year, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns in only 14 games, and just looking the part of a true alpha receiver, a true wide receiver one. It was exciting, and I think we've had to maybe sort of temper, the sky's the limit enthusiasm we had for him coming into this year. And that's the interesting thing about it. I think that there is going to be a wide range of opinions on him in the offseason, and I think it's the guys who have those wide ranges of opinions who are the most ripe for trades. Guys where there's sort of this wide spectrum of belief in whether, people are high on them or kind of down on them. Like, those are the easiest guys to trade when there are these, the people who are anxious to get their hands on them and the people who kind of want to get out from underneath them and sell.
All right, Jerry, that was a beautiful answer. I'm going to give you 47 seconds to give us your take. I'm kidding, Jerry. Take as much time as you want, as long as it's 47 seconds.
I mean, it's not going to sound as good as Pat's did, but I don't know. I was a little trepidatious on AJ Brown coming into the season based on his value, not because of the player. I think he's an awesome player. I think if anything, this will put him about where he should be, because he has been getting injured. But he can also be an absolute monster and win you a week. So I don't know. I'm not one of those people that thinks AJ Brown is dynasty wide receiver one. I don't even really think he's in the conversation to be dynasty wide receiver one. That being said, going to be 25 in June. I'd see nothing in his future that would suggest that he's not going to be a staple of a starter in a dynasty lineup for the next 3 to 4 years. So I'm not doing anything too crazy. If anything, I do think his startup value is going to be a little better. You might be able to inquire to try and get him, but the problem is if somebody has AJ Brown now, somebody really likes AJ Brown, and you are less likely to get a value from it. So he's tough. I understand the frustration. I know Randy's gonna piss on him a little bit because he's not been the biggest of AJ Brown fans, at least value-wise. And the last month or so has sort of confirmed that a little bit. I don't like to stroke Randy's ego because I
think that much like everything else, I'm not going to take this down a political road or anything, but much like anything else, you're either a supporter or a hater. I've always just been an AJ Brown realist. I love the talent. I love what I've seen, but he's never put up gaudy numbers. I mean, currently his best season to date was last year. He played 14 games, had 70 catches, just over 1,000 yards. Well, we'll call it was 1075, and he averaged 17.7 fantasy points a game in PPR. This year, he was already, before the injury, he was trending toward a career low in fantasy points per game. And that was before he went out with the injury. I had keyword, that's a past tense for you non-English speakers or writers, had him in my Power 5 of wide receivers for a startup. I always felt like if you had A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, or Justin Jefferson, you had a really good young wide receiver to build around. Unfortunately, I tend to move my dynasty market probably more quickly than most and sometimes too quickly. But he is now in a mystery tier between the big three, which is Lamb, Jefferson, and Chase. Him and DK Metcalf are in this weird limbo between those three guys and then the guys we're going to talk about here in just a second. And the reason why is because we've seen A.J. Brown do it and we've seen DK Metcalf do it, but they just don't seem to be able to overcome certain hurdles. Is it poor quarterback play? Is it injury related? It always seems to be something with these two guys. So I've got them in a mystery tier, but I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I'm going to ask you. So Jerry, you mentioned his age. He's 24, going to turn 25 in June, right at going into the peak of his powers. It was supposed to have been this year. So I'm going to give you guys 5 other wide receivers that would you trade this other wide receiver for A.J. Brown? And if the answer is no, what would you have to add to get this deal done? So Pat, I'll start with you. Would you want A.J. Brown or DJ Moore? DJ Moore is 24 as well. He turns 25 in April. About 2 months in age separate these two.
I've been a big DJ Moore guy, so I'm going to have to say I would want Moore. It is close. I love that Moore has been able to produce with bad quarterbacks so far. Really, the only thing missing from the profile right now has been touchdowns. And we've started to see that, he can score touchdowns. I don't know this year. I get the man a quarterback though. And, I like him just a little bit more than AJB.
Man, and all these guys, by the way, these next 5 guys, they're in that next group of wide receivers beyond the 5 that I've already talked about. What about you, Jerry? DJ Moore or DJ or AJ?
I think it's A.J. Brown, but it's close. And it's only because if I decide to trade them away, I think I can get a lot more for A.J. Brown than I can for DJ Moore. But let's say I couldn't do that and I just had to start them. I mean, that's neck and neck for me. And like Pat said, the quarterback situation has been just bad. It's like he's got me out there throwing him, and I got this little arm. It is not going to throw it very far. So I'm going to take A.J. Brown, but just by a little bit. And I think that is sort of a radical thing for both of us to sort of say, because I feel like if we would have said this 4 months ago, just for suggesting that DJ Moore could have been in the same realm as A.J. Brown, I think would have been heresy.
I was going to say blasphemy, but we will accept heresy. I will accept heresy. You guys know, I mean, I'm team DJM all day long. And here's the thing, this is foreshadowing, but I think foreshadowing and understanding the actual football situations around your dynasty players can enhance or, it's gambling. I love to gamble. But I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that DJ Moore's getting a quarterback upgrade in 2022. David Tepper did not. I've always said this. The man paid cash for the Carolina Panthers. He scratched a check. Oh, 2.2 bill. Here you go. Wire it to the one guy's face. Nice. The struggle is real. This guy is an aggressive hedge fund guy from Wall Street. He's not here to lose. He brought Cam Newton in. He will pull levers. He will make moves. Writing off the $18 million investment in the 5th-year option in Sam Darnold, no big deal. I think they're going to be big players in trying to acquire Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, if Aaron Rodgers is on the market. And that's one thing that based on the dead cap money involved with Ryan Tannehill's contract, you're not going to get with A.J. Brown. His quarterback will continue to be A.J. Brown. And when Derrick Henry's back, he'll continue to be the focal point. So I think if you have A.J. Brown and you want to get DJ Moore, you can probably even get a second thrown in for good measure. You might even be able to add a second to A.J. Brown and get DJ Moore for a first. I would love that deal, but that's just me.
I honestly think you could pretty easily. But
I wouldn't be stunned. All right, Jerry, I'll go back to you. So this next guy, number 1 on his shirt, number 1 in my heart, Terry McLaurin, who is 26 now, turns 27, so he'll be going into the peak of his wide receiver powers. Terry McLaurin or A.J. Brown? If it's A.J. Brown, what do I have to add to get that deal done?
I mean, mine's AJ Brown. Terry scares me, not because of Terry either. Like we just talked about the quarterback play with DJ Moore, but I mean, we're talking about Tyler Heineke right now.
That looked like Brett Favre to me last night, pal. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, I would just take AJ Brown. I think it just sort of in the same realm as the DJ Moore argument is I just think name value is going to get me more value in Dynasty. I think he's going to go earlier in startup drafts. And Terry's a little, I don't know, he's roller coastery a little bit this year. You know, he was pretty consistent last year. This year it's sort of been chunks of being really good for 2 or 3 weeks and then falling on his face for a couple of weeks. Not that it's his fault, but as a person that relies on those points, I blame him for it. So I'm going to take AJ, I think.
All right, I'm going to throw it back to Pat, but Pat, I'm sorry, you are a Packers fan. And speaking of heresy and blasphemy, comparing Tyler Heineke to your man Brett Favre is probably a criminal offense where you're from.
Yeah, that would probably get you thrown out of a Wisconsin pub or two. I got to go with AJ Brown here. I don't know what would close the gap. Maybe I think it would take a little more than like an early second, something like oh man, what would be a good gap closer? I don't know, throwing like maybe I do it for like a high seconds.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a reasonable bridge?
I could see that because it's tough because I feel like the name cachet of AJ Brown is much more than Terry McLaurin. Like people that have Terry McLaurin love Terry McLaurin. Randy, person that absolutely loves Terry McLaurin. Is that who you're taking? Are you going to take him straight up?
I'm going to try to get Terry McLaurin in a first. I
know you're going to try to get Terry McLaurin in a first.
I think I could do it.
If you got to pick one player that you have to play and you have to score with them. Is it going to be Terry?
Well, that's what I'm pulling up. I want to see where they stand in points per game this season. Because for me, it's no matter what their name is, even in Dynasty, Terry McLaurin on the season scoring 15.2 points per game. So he's scoring 3 more points per game on average than AJ Brown. And yes, it's been a little rocky, but he's had his 27-point game, a 30-point game, but he's also had 4 games in the single digits. So it is, to Jerry's point, a little bit of a roller coaster. But a little peek behind the curtain with what I did on the Patreon show last night at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. I was like, this is the kind of guy that you can go to a rebuilder. Jerry, you're a rebuilder. You love to rebuild. What do rebuilders have a lot of?
Wide receivers, quarterbacks, and picks.
All of the things that I would love to get back for AJ Brown. So you're telling me I can get a wide receiver that in this season is giving me more points per game than AJ Brown, and probably one of those first, and I can sell you that story of, hey, this is the wide receiver of your future. This is the wide receiver you want to build around. Give me Terry in a first and go build with AJ Brown. Doesn't that sound nice?
I mean, it sounds like it could work.
If you're not trying, you're not winning. So let's move to this next guy. This next guy yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs just turned 28. So, Pat, Stefan Diggs or AJ Brown?
AJ Brown, younger, and Steph has had just the one extraordinary season. Like he's had a lot of really good seasons, and granted, he was he had Adam Thielen, peak Adam Thielen as a running mate in Minnesota, but just the one really remarkable season. Kind of a bit of a downturn this year. Still consistent and productive, but not quite as explosive in 2021 so far. So, I definitely think AJB is the better building block. And, for me to take Diggs in return for AJB, I'd definitely need a first along with it, I think.
Yeah, I was just looking, Stefan Diggs having the quietest ever wide receiver 6 season in recent dynasty history.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's the one.
Stefan Diggs in some leagues, and I've actually sort of
doesn't
hated
feel
him.
like
So
it.
that makes me feel stupid that I have
He's been
actually
quite
not
good.
been appreciative.
Right.
He's been quite
Same.
good since the bye. Since the week 7 bye, Stefan has been 15, 14 and a half, 30, 18, and 20. So he's been quite the play over the last 5 weeks. It was choppy earlier in the season, but yeah, it's like the guy right behind him, and we're not going to talk about him, but Adam Thielen, quietly the quietest wide receiver 7 season that I remember recent memory. But Jerry, where are you at on Diggs?
I mean, I like Diggs just fine. I would take AJ Brown pretty easily here. I think I would need a first too. He's just much younger. Stefan Diggs, like Pat said, he had the one unbelievable season, right? But they have not had that. I mean, Josh Allen hasn't had that this year. He sort of hit the plateau. He's hit the age where dynasty players, whether it's a fault or not, start to not love players that are 28 years old. And so his startup value is going to decrease. His trade value is going to start to decrease no matter what production he has, just based on the age. So I would take AJ Brown because he at least has the possibility of ascending in value, even though that is tough because he is damn near the top of the mountain. He's at least hit the snow line. So I'm going to take AJ Brown. I'm fine with Stefan Diggs. I don't think you need to panic on Stefan Diggs yet. And I say that age-wise because he, like we just discussed, he's still producing just fine. But, you get to that point where you worry about a wide receiver that's going to just absolutely fall off the face of the earth. Julio Jones, how you doing? How you doing, buddy? I don't think we are there quite yet with Stefan Diggs. I think we have a good couple of years still left in him.
Couple of things. I agree with that. If I was entering my first year of a contender's window, we talk about 3-year arcs, and that's how if I were entering my first year of a 3-year contending window, and I could get Stefan Diggs and a first for my AJ Brown, because AJ Brown's not helping you right now, and you're trying to win a championship. This is the first year. Then I would advocate that, and I will also say Stefan Diggs is kind of like a blueprint that you hope AJ Brown follows. He's a guy who had some injuries early in his career, and over the last 3 years, knock on wood, not going to do it. Sounds horrible on a podcast, but just know that I hypothetically knocked on wood that, maybe AJ Brown has the kind of injury resurgence that Diggs did. All right, 2 more guys. This next guy is going to baffle some. Pat, I'm a big Deontay Johnson guy. Deontay's 25 now. Will be 26 in July, so about a year different in age. Going to be a new quarterback for him in 2022. What are your thoughts on Deontay and the difference between him and AJ Brown?
Yeah, I mean, Deontay is one of those guys I sometimes have a hard time pegging. I mean, I know my buddy Ben Gretsch says that targets are earned, and Deontay just keeps getting these monstrous target totals. He is earning these targets. And it's impressive how many targets he consistently earns, just double-digit targets week after week after week. Hasn't been super efficient with them, not putting up major numbers this year. But of course, that could just be this offense and the twilight of Ben Roethlisberger. The quarterback position is an issue. I think it's an issue that Chase Claypool is going to be really, really good. And, maybe the roles change and he's not just the vertical receiver in future years when they have a different quarterback. Maybe things are because I think Chase almost has that alpha receiver profile too. So, and they've got Freiermuth, who looks like he's going to have a hearty target share in the years to come. So it's just hard to look into the crystal ball and figure out what this passing game is going to look like beyond this year. So I have a hard time valuing Deontay. I like him. I like AJB more. I'd have a hard time figuring out just how to bridge this gap. A first almost seems like a little too much, but a second maybe not enough. What do you guys think?
Jerry?
I tend to agree. So, in my opinion, Deontay Johnson is at the bottom of this list of players. because I don't know what in the absolute hell is going to happen going forward. Like Pat said, he has not been, having gaudy numbers for a dude that gets 13 targets a game. 13. Like he's gotten it here. I just pulled it up. What? 14, 13, 13, 6, 13, 13, 2, 13, 12, 10 was his targets this year. That is absurd numbers. And he has had one 101-yard game and one 105-yard game. So, is he completely target dependent? The good thing, like if I was going to argue for Deontay Johnson, it's that I think anybody they bring in will be an upgrade from the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the premier organizations in the NFL, and they don't like rebuilding, which is why they always make the playoffs. Now, granted, they had to tie with my Detroit Lions, which was an absolute disaster for them. But I do think they are very much in play for a quarterback that will be better. Not necessarily Deshaun Watson, but even if it's Matt Ryan or Jimmy Garoppolo or something, somewhere, I do think they will have a competent quarterback. And I do think Deontay Johnson will still get some love. But I am pretty easily and firmly on the A.J. Brown side. But Randy, he's your man. So you go ahead and prop that man up.
I'll take Deontay Johnson and a first for A.J. Brown right now. A.J. Brown he is your current wide receiver, 14, even though he's had his bye and he missed one game due to injury. One of a handful of wide receivers to post 0 single-digit games in PPR. His worst game on the season was a 12.7. He has done this 2 years in a row with 2 different offensive coordinators. Getting open is a skill in the NFL, and Deontay Johnson does this marvelously. Is he going to be the next A.J. Brown? Probably not. But could he be the next Keenan Allen type wide receiver in this offense? And as long as Matt Canada, the new offensive coordinator, is not going anywhere, I've seen it 2 years. I think it was Randy Fichtner last year as the OC. As long as it's not an exclusive to Big Ben thing, I couldn't get any data on him with Duck Hodges or Mason Rudolph. But there was the one Mason Rudolph game this year. I believe that was the 13.3 points in Week 10 when Big Ben was a COVID-related absence. So yeah, I'll do it. I traded Devontae Adams for Deontay Johnson, a first and a second in a league last year. I believe I've been rewarded with that move. So I'm good. I love that man. All right, last guy.
Would you take Deontay in a second?
No, because I don't have to.
Okay.
I don't have to. Because
is it value based or because I feel like you like Deontay Johnson better than you like A.J. Brown, period.
I like points. I like the fact that Deontay
this guy
Johnson
is a politician. I'm telling you.
I don't. None of them owe me money, and I'm not inviting them over to watch my kids. I just want points. I just want points on Sundays, sometimes Thursdays and Mondays. That's all that I care about. None of this is personal, and that's what this.
I'm in so many leagues with Randy, and this is how trading with him is all the time. It's just coach speak all the time.
Hey, he gets the job. But what I would do, then if someone was really locked into those 22 seconds, I would just go with a 20-23 third. If you follow all of our good friend Ray Garvin, Nick Whalen, anyone who's into the Devy scene, there seems to be a lot of love around the 2023 class. I would approach it like this. Hey, I dig it. You know what? You're a big fan of those rookie picks. I understand. You know what? Go ahead and give me that 2023 first, and you can figure out how to get some more of those later. I'd do that too. But that's me. All right. Last guy, Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill's 27 now. Will be 28 in March. We know his quarterback situation's good. He's just a phenomenal wide receiver. One of the funnest guys to watch in the NFL. Jerry, are you a Tyreek Hill guy? And would you do this a 1-for-1?
Yes, I would. I know there is an age difference, and I get the age difference. Tyreek Hill, the problem is I can ride Tyreek Hill out right now, and I can win my championship while A.J. Brown's not there. He's under contract again next year. They're almost certainly not going to get rid of him. Now, granted, they could save a ton of money because the dead cap's only like $2 million, but they're not going to. Yes, I would still ride out Tyreek Hill. Just because I think he is I think it's arguably the best wide receiver in the league. He's on a great offense. He's got Patrick Mahomes. He's got Andy Reid. Even if I can get 2 years of Tyreek Hill, I think 2 years of Tyreek Hill is better than 5 of A.J. Brown.
You heard the man, Pat. What are your thoughts on Hill versus Brown?
I'm kind of with Jerry. Hill is the kind of guy who, if he gets on a heater, can pretty much single-handedly propel you to a championship. Like if he gets hot at the right time, just such a difference maker. And to a degree that we have not yet seen from A.J. Brown. So, I'm taking Tyreek straight up, but the gap, I think, due to the age difference, the perceptions of what AJB could become, I don't think you're going to, I think you could probably make that deal 1-for-1 in a lot of places.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree. And I like how I love Jerry's intertwining of the playoffs this year and both of these guys. They're very similar assets in a dynasty roster. And A.J. Brown's going to be coming back off of IR. And obviously he's not going to play this week. That'll be game 2. He'll miss the Jaguars game, which would be the one you'd want him to have. And then in the playoffs this year, he'll be at the Steelers, which is still a good defense. He'll be at home versus the 49ers and then versus the Dolphins. And the Dolphins' pass defense has not been great, but the Dolphins have a couple of pretty good corners in Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. So those aren't matchups that, he outside of my Colts, he's not beat up too many teams this year. So if I'm trying to contend, I'm totally going Mr. Tyreek Hill. So there you go. A.J. Brown, been in the news. Jerry, I think maybe we'll do this again next week with Christian McCaffrey. Those are the guys I've been seeing. Pat, now in your leagues, I'm seeing a lot of Christian McCaffrey moves.
Oh, yeah. So I just actually dealt Christian McCaffrey, and this is a league I'm in. This was Jax Falcone started this. It's a 14-team dynasty league. And I unloaded McCaffrey in a rare 3-way deal a couple of weeks ago. And I got, 2 first-rounders next year, gave up a second in 2023. And what else did I give up? Devin Duvernay. And I think I got I got another first in 2024.
You got 3 firsts?
3 firsts.
Easy.
Gave up a second next year, and Devin Duvernay and McCaffrey. And someone at the time commented like, that's the cheapest I've seen McCaffrey go. And, so at the time I'm like, oh man, did I let him go for way too little? Now I'm feeling just great about it. Couldn't feel happier.
Jerry tried to get him from me in a league we're in together earlier. Jerry, 3 firsts, he's yours.
Yeah, I bet he is. No, thank you.
So all I can say for getting three firsts for Christian McCaffrey at this point.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You absolutely crushed that one. So that was What Are We Doing with A.J. Brown? This next segment we're going to jump into real quick is your favorite dynasty trade target. Now, just to make sure, Jerry and I normally talk about if you're a contender if you're in a rebuilder, this does not matter to us. This is just the guy that you want on your rosters going into the offseason for whatever reason. And Pat, what is your reason and who is your guy?
All right, so my guy is actually Juju Smith-Schuster. Probably a guy you have not talked about a lot in recent weeks. Out of sight, out of mind with the season-ending shoulder injury. But I don't know about you guys, but I was just like so dismayed when he re-signed with the Steelers for 1 year this year, knowing that he was going to be in that target log jam with Deontay, with Claypool, and going back for another year of declining. The end is nigh. Ben Roethlisberger, when he could have gone somewhere else and gotten some sort of different, fresh outlook. And I know a lot of people think the early career production was largely attributable to the fact that he was playing with peak Antonio Brown, which is, maybe just a couple shades below peak Jerry Rice. And that contributed to Juju having a 1,400-yard season at age 22. I would contend that you don't have a 1,400-yard season at age 22 unless you're pretty special, even if you've got a just, walk-in Hall of Fame guy as the other wide receiver. Like you're still beating consistently NFL cornerbacks. And just the Juju came in and I think it was his rookie year, he put that hit on Vontaze Burfict that knocked Burfict cold. And Juju was just like a made man in the locker room from that point on. No more rookie hazing after that. Just I think he is a pretty terrific football player. I mean, I can remember him playing, just this boring sample, but playing USC played Wisconsin in the Holiday Bowl in Juju's last year. And Juju didn't have a big game. It was 3 catches for 58 yards. But, man, there were a couple, near misses where, just bad throws where Juju had a couple steps on a guy going deep or something. I mean, there was this ongoing fear of him in that game. You could just, his playmaking ability was just palpable. And at only he's going to be, I think next year is going to be his age 26 season, a fresh start somewhere. I'm kind of excited and I want a piece of that. And I went the wrong direction. I traded him away to get Marvin Jones in this league where I needed another piece at wide receiver. My trading partner was happy to take, he was rebuilding, happy to take Juju and whatever the future may bring. This was right after the DJ Chark injury. I thought Jones was going to be a valuable property this season. I'm in contend now mode, and I really wish I could have a mulligan on that deal.
Jerry, you want to tell him or you want me to?
No, you because you're gonna hate on him, and I don't hate
no,
you.
I don't.
So.
Do you ever pay attention when we do this podcast?
Listen,
I have been advocating for people to go get Juju.
Listen. He has been advocating since the injury that he wants Juju because he's going to land in a conducive place to fantasy points. But for the last 4 years that we've been doing this damn show, I've been just tooting the Juju horn, and he's just been raining on my parade. But go ahead, Randall.
I mean, it's the move of the century. Any deal you're doing right now, if you can get Juju as a throw-in to a GM not paying attention in your league, it's the steal of the century. He is going to blend right in, but you know what? He is going to be part of one of the best free agent wide receiver classes that I can recall in a while. Names like Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, Antonio Brown, Byron Pringle, Michael Gallup, Juju, Will Fuller. I mean, he's going to land on a new squad. Just going to be so good for Juju to wind up somewhere. And hopefully he gets good, QB play. When he played with Ben at the time, I think Ben was still throwing for 5,000 yards in a given season. So, no, Pat, you're hitting all the right notes with Jerry and I. We love Juju. We completely because here's the thing, whether he plays for you next year or you never use him, you're going to increase your value on Juju. What you pay today will not be what you'll have to pay in March. I think the new season kicks off around St. Patrick's Day. We'll say March 17th, give or take. And when he signs with a new team, his dynasty value is going up. Hope springs eternal. That's how it works in dynasty. Gerald, who is your man? Who is the guy that you have to have?
So mine is not a huge surprise based on my tendencies. He's not a guy I've talked a ton about on this show. He's a guy that Shane Hallam actually put us on when we had him on in the offseason, when we always asked the infamous question, who is the small school guy that you want in this rookie draft? And his answer was Elijah Mitchell. I think my guy's Elijah Mitchell. I did talk about him a couple of weeks ago. And I said I would be trading a contender's first to get him so I could win a championship. I think that was the Evan show. You guys were not exactly thrilled with me. Dude produces. I don't care. Haters can hate all they want. 4 100-yard games in the 8 games that he started. I think another game he had over 90 yards. 2 times in the last 3 games, he's had 5 receptions in those games. Raheem Mostert's going to be 30 next year. Jeff Wilson came back and not going to do anything again. So I like Elijah Mitchell. And I don't think the trade value for Elijah Mitchell matches up with what his production is. He's got, it's cliche to say he's got James Robinson vibes. Undrafted guy producing. Sorry, I'm going to do it because he's my James Robinson once again. Like I am just all aboard Elijah Mitchell. I think he's cheap. He's good for a contender. He's good for a rebuilder because he's only going to be 23 next year. It's an offense that's good. I think once Trey Lance is in there and he has the threat of running, then that really is going to throw defenses off. It's just going to open the offense more for Elijah Mitchell. I like him. You guys can rain on that parade all you want. I'm going to throw my AirPods away if you do.
I'm gonna let Pat take it. Elijah Mitchell. What do you think? Because what do you think the rest of the season is going to look like for this guy? I think he's going to be a league winner. And what do you think about long term?
Yeah, encouraging that he's started to catch passes too in his last couple of games. We didn't know if he had that in his skill set, and we're seeing it now. But you mentioned Ray Garvin earlier, and I think Ray had a tweet today that if Trey Sermon had been doing what Eli Mitchell is doing in his rookie year, people would be viewing Trey Sermon as a top 10 dynasty running back. And yet, as Jerry said, I don't think we're seeing that kind of credence giving to Eli right now, and that like he's probably not coveted in that same regard in dynasty. But maybe he should be. I mean, he's not a super sexy, like he doesn't have these Javonte Williams runs where he carries a safety on his back 20 yards or just
you're gonna get Randy too excited. You keep talking about Javonte like that.
Yeah, or some of the open field moves of DeAndre Swift, but Eli just gets to where he's going and doesn't mess around and gets there in a hurry, and it's maybe one cut tops, and
he's like Frank Gore. He's like Frank Gore, but he's younger.
He's just been so effective this year. So, I kind of fell ass backwards into him in a couple of redraft leagues, and
those are the best.
Really pleased with what he's done so far. Pretty impressive. So I'm very much on board.
He was originally going to be my guy we were going to talk about in our next segment with our Dynasty Conundrums. Because, the one thing about a Kyle Shanahan running back, they're not here for a long time, but man, are they here for a good time. And that's my only concern. I did some research on Elijah Mitchell for our Patreon podcast last night. Not as good as the wide receiver free agent class is, it's not a great running back free agent class. They don't have a ton of draft capital because they traded a lot of it away to acquire the aforementioned Trey Lance by Jerry. And they have some issues in the back end of that secondary, so that they'll be using what draft capital they have. I didn't double check their salary cap. Like I said, I don't see a lot of threats. We've seen him play with Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's not done anything. Raheem Mostert is a free agent. If they carry, what's the other guy's name? JJ Taylor, or is he New England? Or JJ Hastings?
They got JaMychal Hasties.
JaMychal Hasties. So there you go. I mean, the odds of them replacing him, I mean, if he finishes strong down the stretch, and if you're in a 1 QB league, if you give up a late first, you're okay, cool, because you're not getting a running back with a late first in a 1 QB league. And if you do, you're reaching. So why not give a guy?
You're going to end up with that year's Trey Sermon, is what or Royce Freeman or someone like that.
Man, that is just gross. I think Royce Freeman in 1 QB leagues was going higher than that.
Well, yeah, probably.
But while we're talking rookies and drafts, I'll just go ahead and jump into my guy, and it's Jaylen Waddle. I am absolutely head over heels for Jaylen Waddle, and I remember all the naysayers in the draft cycle. Oh, you can't take him that early. He's not an early declare, and he's 22. I don't give a shit. I really don't. You know what he does? If I told you, Jerry, how many points on the season do you think separate Jaylen Waddle from one Jamar Chase? If you had to guess.
You are going to tell me, but I'm going to guess it's lower than I would have said. So I'm going to say 25.
How about 7?
Oh,
7.
Okay.
Jamar Chase currently with 188.1. Jaylen Waddle 181.2. Here's the thing. Much like Jamar Chase, his quarterback situation is stable. The worst case of this scenario is that it could get better if the owner makes the impatient move and trades for Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. That's the only thing that can happen, because with Tua, we've seen it with Tua. You know what? I saw it with Jacoby Biscuits Brissett. You know, he does it close to the line of scrimmage. He uses his punt returner skills, and nothing against Tua. I don't think he's got a great arm, but if he ever gets a quarterback with the big arm, I am a hater. Write that down. But, you know, I mean, listen, dude, I'm sorry. If Tua throws anything over 25 yards, he looks like he's throwing a shot put. No offense. But I love Jaylen Waddle. I'm his biggest fan. I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think there's any other rookie wide receiver in this class that outside of Jamar Chase that's even close to Jaylen Waddle. So, Pat, do you share my enthusiasm for Jaylen Waddle?
I do, and he's really grown on me lately. Just how you can feel like the crackling of electricity when he has the ball in his hands. He's one of those guys, and like I'm a sucker for those guys who are just so explosive after the catch. As you sort of alluded to with Tua, and I thought Tua used to throw a nice deep ball at Alabama, but then again, he also had like 6 seconds to sit back there and find receivers downfield. So, yeah, I mean, like once if we get the missing ingredient where he's got time to run some of these deeper routes, like I don't know what his ADOT is this year, but it's probably a lot more modest than we're going to see it be in the future. Yeah, man, like he's shown it. I don't think maybe he had a rushing touchdown, but I don't know if he'd had a TD catch since the 2 we had in that London game. So it was nice to see him get back on the board this past week. Yeah, man, sky's the limit for him. Like he could be one of these guys who maybe is like a wide receiver 1 for Dynasty. Like he's could be knocking on that door.
I mean, 4.37 speed. He ran a 4.32 at his combine. I'm using playerprofiler.com metrics. I'll get you his ADOT. Jerry earlier today, he tried. This is Jerry being the opportunist. He tried to send me Kareem Hunt and a mid to late first for Christian McCaffrey. Jerry, what was my counter, and what were your thoughts on Jaylen Waddle?
It was Jaylen Waddle, my first, a third for McCaffrey and Amon-Ra, and I did not like that because I love Jaylen Waddle as well. And it's funny because I thought that was one of the worst picks in the NFL draft when they did that. I thought for sure they should have gone somebody else, and they went and reached, and I was wrong. So unbelievably wrong. I'm aboard. I like the guy. I like Tua though too. You know, I'm a sucker for people in Alabama helmets, and I know Randy hates Alabama hats, but
I'm sitting here professing my love for Jaylen Waddle, and I hate Alabama hats. Do you see what I deal with? 4 years, we've never missed a Wednesday in 4 years.
It took Randy to get Pat on the show, because if I would have talked to it, he'd have been like, "This guy's an idiot." No, I'm not going on that show.
You are something else, Gerald. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't see a head coaching change. I don't see an offensive coordinator change, and the only quarterback change would be for the positive for a guy with 4.37. I cannot find his ADOT on this thing.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. So we talked about AJ Brown trades earlier. AJ Brown or Jaylen Waddle?
Oh, I'll just take the first that goes with Jaylen Waddle and run away like I stole something.
Okay.
Giggling like a little schoolgirl, just loving life.
That's actually his normal laugh.
That is my normal laugh whenever I make a trade with you. So, all right. We got one more segment for you. We're going to jump into some Dynasty Conundrums, and it's just like it sounds. These are guys that we love or hate for long-term Dynasty, but we just can't get the real feel for what their long-term prospects are. So, Pat, I'm going to let you go first. Who is your Conundrum Dynasty asset?
Yeah, I'll start with a young guy, a rookie, Rondale Moore. And, when I first saw this guy play for Purdue in 2018, it was like, a choir of angels singing when I first saw this dude, just a little stick of dynamite. And I mean, that year at Purdue in 13 games, I think he had 1,400 yards from scrimmage, 14 touchdowns, single-handedly beat Ohio State, Purdue beating Ohio State. He almost beat my Wisconsin Badgers. I think we needed like 3 overtimes to beat him. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. And a lot of it was, yes, sort of manufactured usage, short area stuff, the same sort of stuff we're seeing with Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona. But there was also a little bit more of the downfield usage, and enough to make me think that he might be Steve Smith one day. And, I'm still optimistic that he's going to be Steve Smith instead of Tavon Austin. And, I really want to believe that because I thought he was a special player. Didn't bother me that we didn't see a lot of him in 2019 and 2020 due to, injury, then kind of a minor injury in 2020. He opts out of that season after like 3 games. And like I thought it would work well with Kingsbury, a guy who has that sort of horizontal passing game and has shown a willingness to get it into Rondale's hands. He's got 44 catches, but his ADOT is 1.6 yards. And, it's just hard to be fantasy relevant when you're asked to do everything after the catch. You're not getting any easy air yards. So I don't know what he's going to be. And that's the conundrum.
Jerry, thoughts on Rondale Moore, Purdue guy, not too far from where I live?
No. Yeah, no. I loved watching Purdue kick the absolute crap out of Ohio State. That's always good unless it's Michigan winning. If it's Michigan winning, I don't like watching Ohio State lose. But in every other situation, it's wonderful. Rondale Moore he's weird because I loved him as a prospect. He went to Arizona, and I didn't love the spot. But long term, I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be extremely relevant fantasy-wise, deep into the future. And at some point, I would love to have Rondale Moore as one of the main guys in that offense with Kyler Murray. I'm with you. I think he's perfect for this segment because I don't know what the hell to do with him. Because I would love to have him on my roster and not be reliant on him. If I can have him and I can stash him, I think it is perfect because I think he does have a great ceiling. But if he doesn't ever amount to it, at least I'm not relying on him, and at least I have learned my lesson and I can move on peacefully. As far as my guy, you want me to go into my guy, Randall?
I just want to add one thing about a couple of things on Rondale Moore. One, both AJ Green, got to get all your AJs correct. AJ Green and Christian Kirk are free agents in this offseason. And let me ask you one question. We talk about Cliff Kingsbury, the spread offense, pass the ball nonstop. Jerry, I'm going to ask you because Pat would know because Pat's a highly educated, fantasy gamer. So Jerry, I'm going to throw this to you. What percentage is the run to pass ratio in Arizona this year?
Randall, enlighten me.
So you're not even going to venture a guess?
Absolutely
you're not going to fall into
look stupid. No.
You're not going to fall into my trap.
No.
See, Pat, he's wising up after all these years. They are the 5th highest rushing percentage team in the league. They rush the ball they pass the ball 53% of the time. So they run the ball 47. The only teams that pass less than the Arizona Cardinals by percentage this year are the Eagles, the 49ers, the Bears, and the Titans. Do you think that's always going to be the case with a healthy Kyler? Do you think they're always going to get 13 touchdowns from James Conner?
No, I do not think that.
We've seen the 7-target game. I do agree that he's a conundrum. I often use this term a lot in Dynasty, the refund. If I can go to any GM that's dissatisfied that paid a late second in a super flex or a mid second in a 1 QB, if they would like a refund in the way of my second in 2022, here you go. Here's your refund because I get Kyler Murray, I get Cliff Kingsbury, and it's not always going to be this way. So, yes, Jerry, I would love to know who your guy is.
My guy is Leonard Fournette because I thought he was going to fall off the face of the earth. and now he's like RB6 or something. Like he's a top 10 running back. He looked like an absolute machine in the playoff run last year. He's looked good again this year. He's been getting absurd amounts of work. The thing that, has me worried is the contract, because he's not a 1-year contract, right? But would I be surprised if the Buccaneers re-signed him? Not entirely. Because they are a successful team. They are likely going to continue to want to win immediately as long as Tom Brady is there, and I do believe he will be there again next year. Why not have Leonard Fournette? Because Ronald Jones, I'm sorry, it is not going to happen. It has been a nice, fugazi. It's been a fugazi. That's what his whole dynasty value has been since he became a first-round rookie pick, whenever that was, in 2018 or whatever.
He was 2017, the fabled class with Joe Mixon and Dalvin and CMC and the like.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that didn't work out. So I would definitely – see, it's like I like Leonard Fournette, and I think Leonard Fournette is going to continue to be productive even as an older running back. Normally, Randy – on this show, I tell you about how I hate second contract running backs. And Leonard Fournette's on like his 7th contract, and I still like him. He runs like a person that is built to play this game, and he is going to continue to play this game. But it's weird because everything history says you should be done with Leonard Fournette, and he should be off your teams, and you should just be riding him out this year if you're a contender and selling him off if you're not. But I'm not so sure that Leonard Fournette's story is getting closed. I think the story is still being written for a little bit longer.
All right, I'm going to throw this to Pat for just a second, but you used a certain word in there.
What I'm saying to you is you should give it to somebody that don't know any better, because that's a fugazi. All right?
That's a fugazi? How do you know it's a fugazi? You looked at it for 2 seconds.
Well, it's a fake.
Yeah, I know what a fugazi is.
All right, Pat, what do you think?
Wow, you were so quick on that drop. That was impressive.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so what's just boggled my mind is the usage in the passing game. Like, we thought that 81 catch season he had in Jacksonville was this anomaly, and we're seeing it again with Tom Brady, who just loves him as an outlet guy. And we thought that was going to be Giovanni Bernard, like Gio Bernard was going to be the James White for Brady in Tampa, and it hasn't happened. And it seems like the more defenses hit Brady, the more he just wants to find Leonard Fournette on these little checkdowns underneath. So it's all kind of working. He's not sharing the early down work with Jones. He's the passing down guy too. Yeah, like he is a hard guy to value. Like, do we trust? I have a feeling like I'm going to have him too low when I do my 2022 rankings. I'm going to just like built in some sort of.
But I think that's fair. I think it's fair to have him there too, though.
Yeah. Like I know it, but I've written him off and been wrong multiple times before, so I'm probably going to be wrong again.
Yeah, I've always been a big Lombardi Lenny guy, and he's only 26. He'll be 27 in January, and I think he is the prize of the running back free agent class coming up. But I agree with both of you guys. He will be hard to rank for seasonal next year. He'll be hard to rank for dynasty. I expect a lot of where are you taking Leonard Fournette in 2022 startups. It's going to be real hard to say until March. So it's a big gamble, but it depends. I mean, I can't say I would blame him if he wants to leave and go sign a 3-year deal somewhere and get that guaranteed money. If he wins another Super Bowl this year, he's won his Super Bowl. He's a running back. He plays the most volatile position in pro football. I mean, in his case, I would not blame him for wanting to get the bag. But here's the thing. The guy's played 11 games, 66 targets on the season, 51 catches. I mean, and that's a useful skill set no matter where he plays. So I think he's the kind of guy that's going to be going in the mid to late RB2 range, that RB 18 to 24 in a startup next year. And he's just going to be value on value. All right, I'll bring this thing home with my final guy. My guy is Darnell Mooney. I was not the biggest fan of Mooney. I thought he was kind of an afterthought, but the more I see this guy play, the more I like him. And it's obvious that it's not just Justin Fields who likes him. He had a great, no, it was against the Lions, Jerry. I do apologize in advance. That is your squad. But it's not just Justin Fields that likes him. Man, this guy's good. And good players are hard to come by. I do think the Bears will add to the wide receiver group, but the Bears have got bigger issues in their secondary and on their offensive line. If there's one thing they have to fix, it's the offensive line. I actually think this would be the perfect spot for a guy that Pat mentioned earlier, Juju. Juju working underneath with Darnell Mooney doing Darnell Mooney things. I think that would, along with Cole Kmet, that would be a beautiful 1-2-3 for a young quarterback like Justin Fields, allowing the Bears to use the rest of their free agent money and draft capital to really shore up that offensive line. If there's one thing we've seen with LA Chargers this year, that you can get your offensive line turned around pretty quickly, with drafting a guy high and, bringing in a center in the case of Ryan Lindley, who they brought in. So, Pat, you're there in the Chicago area, about an hour from Milwaukee. I won't say where. Got to keep Pat's location safe. This is streamed worldwide. But what have you seen in Mooney, and what do you think about him long term?
Yeah, he's not just a vertical guy. He's got a more broad skill set than that, and we saw that I think it was 2 games ago where he had a catch and broke a couple of tackles. And normally you're just thinking that this is a guy who can turn on the Jets and make those big plays. But this time he actually kind of out-muscled 2 guys to get to the point where he could turn on the Jets and make that big play. And a follower of mine, a female follower who went to Tulane, put me on to Mooney kind of early last year. She's like, watch this guy. I think he's pretty good. And she was totally right. So shout out to Anissa for calling that one. I like him. I'm totally with you. I think maybe we're still underestimating him a little, but we're seeing it down the stretch now. He's kind of a wide receiver 2 with Allen Robinson not there. And even if Robinson is there, he's been the preferred target all season in that offense.
Yeah, I don't have this drop, but I just took the note for the next one. It would be the one from Captain Phillips, Darnell Mooney looking at Allen Robinson. Look at me. I am the captain now. So, Jerry, anything? You watched Darnell on Thanksgiving dissect your Detroit Fighting Lions to the tune of 5 for 123?
By then, I think I was in my tryptophan nap. But no, it's funny because if Rondale Moore was doing what Darnell Mooney's doing, this is sort of the Elijah Moore, Trey Sermon thing, the Dynasty community would be going absolutely bananas. So the guy has 3 games over 120 yards. It's funny because there was a little bit of hype this offseason, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I thought that was nonsense. My man's been good. I'm with you. I think he's primed for good things, but you want to see it a little bit more consistently, and that's a little bit volatile of a situation with Matt Nagy, ruining everybody's dreams and hopes. It's relying upon it. But let's get out of here, Andy. Let's wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, we'll take this one in for a landing, but I want to give Pat one more chance to Pat, what's going on the rest of the season for you at Fantasy Pros and your podcast?
So everyone can find my work, including the primer, every week at fantasypros.com. And my weekly podcast, Fits on Fantasy, comes out every Tuesday morning, available wherever you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, whatever, SoundCloud. And hit me up on Twitter at Fitz_FF.
There you go, Jerry. Well, we're going to get out of here, but real quick, just want to make sure to talk about our friends over at Hate Brand Goods. That is the official apparel sponsor of me. My athletic shorts that I wear to the gym, as well as some other fashion stuff. Black Friday release still live on the site at the HVIII.com. Check them out and check out Pat, man. I check out his rankings. I check out the primer. Really glad to have you on, Pat. Very kind of you to make time. I know you're busy. I know what it's like to produce all this content, and to make time for us in season was very kind of you.
Thank you very much, Memphis and Jerry. Really honored to be on with both of you. This was a blast, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Oh man, we're gonna get you back in here. We're gonna we're gonna do the rookie thing. We'll have you back on. We'll have you come on and do a mock draft with us. We'll get another 2 or 3 analysts in here. We'll do some mock drafts. It's going to be a big off season. We all love rookie content, but we'll get you out of here. But on behalf of Pat, Jerry, and myself, remember, here at the Dynasty WarZone, we're just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll see you back here with some more Dynasty content. Thanks, guys.